They were never just a band, they were a storm of broken relationships, brilliant minds, and impossible talent that somehow produced music more beautiful than the chaos surrounding it. These are the 10 best-selling songs by the greatest rock band that ever fell apart and stayed together. Let's begin. 10. Tusk.
Tusk!
By 1979, Fleetwood Mac had sold more albums than almost any band on Earth. And were under pressure to follow rumors with something equally enormous. Lindsey Buckingham's response was to do the opposite of what everyone expected. Tusk was strange, abrasive, and deliberately unconventional. Recorded partly at home on primitive equipment and featuring the USC Trojan Marching Band in one of the most audacious production decisions of the entire decade. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and sold over 4 million copies worldwide. Despite baffling critics and casual fans alike, the album it came from cost over $1 million to record, making it one of the most expensive productions in rock history at that point. Buckingham was an artist who had just experienced the kind of commercial success most musicians only dream about, and his instinct was to immediately complicate it. Tusk was Buckingham refusing to be defined by his own success, pushing against the very thing that had made him famous. Not every act of artistic courage is immediately understood, but time has been extraordinarily kind to this one. 9. Everywhere. By 1987, Fleetwood Mac had survived lineup changes, personal collapses, and a decade of internal warfare that would have destroyed lesser bands entirely. Everywhere arrived as proof that they could still write pure, uncomplicated pop music when the moment called for it. Christine McVie's composition was warm and generous, built around a keyboard melody so immediately likable that it felt familiar before the first chorus had finished. It reached number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 and performed significantly stronger in the United Kingdom, where it became one of their biggest hits of the decade. The production was crisp and contemporary, reflecting the sonic landscape of late 80s pop without losing any of the warmth that had always defined McVie's best work. What made Everywhere remarkable was its lightness. After years of emotionally heavy material that wore the band's personal struggles on its sleeve, here was a song that simply wanted to make you feel good. McVie's gift for melody was always the emotional anchor of Fleetwood Mac's best work, and Everywhere was that gift operating without complication or compromise. 8. Little Lies.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies. Oh, tell me lies.
Christine McVie wrote Little Lies during a period of personal upheaval, and the result was one of the most perfectly constructed pop songs of the 1980s. Released in 1987, it reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of Fleetwood Mac's biggest international hits of the decade, topping charts across Europe and introducing their music to an entirely new generation of listeners. The production was sleek and contemporary, without sacrificing the warmth that had always defined McVie's songwriting. And the interplay between her vocal and the backing harmonies gave the track a richness that rewarded repeated listening. Little Lies was a song about the comfortable deceptions that hold relationships together long after the truth has become unbearable, a theme that sat at the very heart of everything Fleetwood Mac had always done best. McVie understood that the most honest songs are sometimes the ones about dishonesty, and she built that contradiction into every note. It was pop perfection, built on a foundation of genuine human pain, which was always the band's most compelling contradiction. 7. Sara. Stevie Nicks wrote Sara during one of the most turbulent periods of her life, and the song carries that turbulence in every note without ever becoming difficult to listen to. Released in 1979 as the second single from the Tusk album, it reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of Nicks's most personal and most celebrated compositions. At over 6 minutes in its album version, Sara was an unusually ambitious single, a slow-building meditation on love, loss, and the complicated relationships that defined the Rumors era. The lyrics were elliptical and dreamlike, resisting easy interpretation in a way that invited listeners to bring their own meaning to the song. Nix has suggested the song contains multiple layers of personal meaning that she has never fully explained publicly, which has only deepened its mystique over the decades. There are songs that explain themselves completely, and songs that keep revealing new dimensions the longer you live with them. Sara has always belonged firmly in the second category. It was Stevie Nicks at her most vulnerable and most artistically fearless simultaneously. If this music is moving something deep inside you, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so we can keep telling the stories behind the greatest songs ever recorded. Let's keep going. 6. Hold Me. Fleetwood Mac entered the 1980s, having already achieved more than most bands dare to dream, and Hold Me announced that they had no intention of slowing down. Released in 1982 as the lead single from the Mirage album, it reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and demonstrated that the band could adapt their sound to the demands of a new decade without losing any of the qualities that had made them extraordinary. The interplay between Christine McVie and Lindsey Buckingham's vocals gave the track a tension and energy that felt completely alive, and Buckingham's guitar work was as precise and inventive as anything he had recorded during the Rumors era. The song arrived at a moment when many of their contemporaries were struggling to find relevance in a changed musical landscape, and its success felt like a quiet act of defiance. Hold Me was a commercial record made by artists who understood instinctively how to balance accessibility with genuine craft. It was not the band at their most adventurous, but it was the band at their most professional, which in 1982 was exactly what the moment required. 5. Go Your Own Way.
You can go your own way.
Lindsey Buckingham wrote Go Your Own Way about Stevie Nicks as their relationship collapsed in real time during the recording of Rumors, which meant that Nicks had to sing backing vocals on a song that described her in terms she found deeply unfair and deeply painful. That tension is audible in every second of the recording. Released in December of 1976, it reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became the first single from an album that would go on to sell over 40 million copies worldwide. The guitar work was ferocious, and the drumming was among Mick Fleetwood's finest recorded performances, driving the track with an urgency that matched the emotional desperation of the lyrics. What made the recording so remarkable was the knowledge of what surrounded it, that the people performing it were living the very story the song described. Go Your Own Way was a breakup song performed by people who were actually breaking up, which gave it an authenticity that no amount of studio craft could have manufactured. Real pain always sounds different from simulated pain. 4. Landslide.
Cover trees with landslide, bring it down.
Stevie Nicks wrote Landslide in 1974 while standing at a crossroads, uncertain whether Fleetwood Mac would survive, and uncertain whether her own future lay in music at all. She was 26 years old, living in Colorado, and looking at a mountain that seemed to ask her directly whether she had the courage to keep going. The answer she wrote became one of the most enduring songs in American music history. Landslide did not become a major chart hit on its original release, but its reputation grew steadily over the following decades as listeners discovered it and passed it to each other like something too precious to keep to themselves. The Smashing Pumpkins covered it in 1994 and introduced it to an entirely new generation, and the Dixie Chicks brought it to country audiences in 2002. Each new version sent listeners back to the original, which always rewarded the return. But the original always remained the definitive version: 2 acoustic guitars and a voice asking the most important question any of us ever face. Can I handle the seasons of my life? 3. The Chain. The Chain is the only Fleetwood Mac song credited equally to all 5 members of the classic Rumors lineup, which makes it fitting that it became one of their most enduring and most recognizable recordings. Assembled from separate musical fragments that each band member had been developing independently, it was stitched together in the studio into something that felt both inevitable and completely surprising. The bass line that drives the song's final section is among the most iconic in rock history, a descending figure of such menacing beauty that it has soundtracked everything from Formula One racing to film trailers for decades afterward. Released in 1977 as part of Rumors, The Chain was never a conventional single, but its album track status did nothing to diminish its cultural reach. It was the sound of 5 people who could barely be in the same room together, creating something that none of them could have created alone. That paradox sits at the very heart of what made Fleetwood Mac so extraordinary and so impossible to replicate. That contradiction was always Fleetwood Mac's greatest gift to dreams.
What you love and what you hate.
Stevie Nicks wrote Dreams in a single sitting on a keyboard set up in a studio rehearsal space while the rest of the band worked in the rooms around her. The song took approximately 10 minutes to complete, which means that one of the best-selling singles in music history was written faster than most people eat breakfast. Released in April of 1977, it became Fleetwood Mac's only #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100, sitting at the top for 1 week during a chart run that reflected the extraordinary commercial dominance of Rumors. Nicks's vocal was calm and slightly detached, which made the emotional content of the lyrics land with greater force rather than less. The production was spacious and unhurried, giving every element room to breathe in a way that made the song feel larger than its relatively simple construction suggested. Dreams returned to the charts in 2020 after a viral social media moment introduced it to an audience that had not yet been born when it was recorded. Some songs belong to a moment. Dreams belong to every moment. 1. Don't Stop.
So don't stop thinking about tomorrow. Don't stop.
Christine McVie wrote Don't Stop for her estranged husband John McVie during the recording of Rumors, which meant that the most optimistic and forward-looking song on an album full of heartbreak was addressed directly to the man she was divorcing. That irony is almost too perfect to be accidental. Released in 1977, it reached #3 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became one of the most recognizable and most covered songs in the band's catalog. Bill Clinton adopted it as his 1992 presidential campaign anthem, which introduced it to a political generation and gave the song a cultural resonance that extended far beyond its origins as a piece of personal encouragement between 2 people ending their marriage. The choice said something profound about the song's essential optimism, that a piece of music born from the wreckage of a relationship could become the soundtrack to an entire nation's hope for the future. Don't Stop was pure, generous, and completely unguarded, a song that looked forward without pretending the past hadn't happened. Fleetwood Mac made their greatest music in the middle of their greatest pain, and Don't Stop was the moment that pain became something that could actually help somebody else. They were never supposed to survive. The affairs, the divorces, the feuds, and the heartbreak should have ended them a dozen times over. Instead, they made rumors. They made magic from misery and gave the world songs that will never stop mattering. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.